That is why it's so important. I mean, that's insane. It's insane. You have to get started.
Bear gang till I die, ho. Swooped up the homies and we about to start a sideshow.
The most important thing about investing at a young age, right? The most important thing is understanding what it does for you. So even if you only put $100 into 18, you now start to understand what it can do, and it's not scary to you anymore, right? So then instead of being 18, be like, oh, I'll just do it later. Then you're 21. Oh, I'll do it. I'm partying now. I'll do it later. Then you're 25. Oh, I finally got a girlfriend. I'll do it later. Now I got a job. Oh, well, I'll take care of it. Then you're 34 when you start investing and you've given up 10 years or 14 years or 16 years and it's over, right? I mean, the amount of time you have money invested is more important than the amount of money, right? Time is more important than dollars. Both are important, but time is more. You'll make more money with less money, or more money on less with more time, right? So just getting your feet wet is the most important thing you can do, because then once you already put it into 18, then when you're 19 and you have an extra $100, you'll be like, well, fuck it. I'll do 50. I'll go party, 50. And then the other 50 I'll throw in my investing account. And you'll just compound that over time. 35 is over? No. It's not over. I'm talking about compared to being at 18. It's never too late to start. You just have to put in more money when you get older to make up for it. Putting in 100, let me show you what I mean. Okay, let me show you what I mean, right? Okay, so putting in at a zero balance, putting in $100 a month at 18 years old, look at the difference. Okay, at only $100 a month, let's say you never added any more. Let's say as you got older, you never added more, right? $395,000. Now, if you start at 35 and do that, it cuts it by 2/3. So instead of having 395,000, you have 113. Even at only $100 a month. Okay? That's $1,200 a year. So that's why I'm saying the sooner you do it. And if you're sitting here saying, Stocky, I'm 35, so you're saying it's too late? No, because if you wait until you're 45, it cuts down even dramatically. This is a monthly deposit, guys. $100 a month, $1,200 a year. Okay? This is why it doesn't matter if you're 18, you're 25, you're 35, or you're 40. It doesn't matter. You have to start as soon as you can. Every year that you change differently is a massive amount, right? 1 year, $1,200 more gives you $4,000 more when you retire. Do you see that? Now look at this. Add minus one more year. Another $5,000. 42. Remember, you're only adding $1,200 a year. Look at that. That is why it's so important. Only $1,200 a year, but adding an extra year? I mean, that's insane. It's insane. You have to get started.
I'm not going to get political here, but I'm going to tell you some stats, okay? Prior to coronavirus, depending on the stats you looked at, around 60% or higher of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Okay? They could not cover a $400 emergency expense. Okay? 70% of Americans had less than $1,000 in their account.
Well, I think investing is the greatest tool in our current situation to grow your wealth as a passive investment. Having that money in the market, okay, when that's all you have, if the market dumps and you lose 20% of that, you have $800. If the market dumps along with the economy and you lose your job, you're now $200 less to cover expenses. All right? What you need to focus on is A, your spending / savings. It's the first thing you need to focus on. Make yourself a list. The WN list. Things you want, things you need. If it's something you want, but not something you need, then you don't need it right now. You shouldn't pay for it. Okay, you shouldn't spend it. Then you need to build up your emergency fund. You should take all the expenses that you have, not bullshit expenses, but actual expenses. Your rent, your car payment, your water, power,
internet, food, etc., etc. And I want you to take that number and I want you to times it by 6. And that's what you should have in your savings account at any time. Because if you lose your job and you have to go out and look for another job in this society right now, okay, and if unemployment benefits are cut, you need to survive that 6 months, okay, at least. All right, that's what you need to focus on. Then when you get that, you need to work on getting a better job or bettering your situation. Because when you're at your job, you can get your 401k. So instead of getting taxed money from your paycheck and then putting it into an account and then any money you make on that getting taxed again, get a low management fee 401k from your job. You don't pay taxes on that, so it lowers your tax rate, and you're putting that directly into investments. Okay? Then learn how to build a better resume. Always put out resumes, even if you're working. Worst case scenario, you don't get a job. It's not like your job's going to be like, oh, I heard you were looking for another job. No, fuck that. That job doesn't give a shit about you. You think if you died, your job was gonna hold a memorial? No, they'll have your position filled in 2 weeks. Don't fucking worry about hurting anybody's feelings, okay? Get a job that you enjoy and that you're qualified for. Learn how to build a good resume. Learn how to get the right skills. Learn how to oversell yourself, okay? Then once you do that, then you focus on what you should invest in.
Why do people always talk about investing in houses but not apartments? Because people there's a difference between passive and active investments, okay? So a passive investment is something that you purchase and it just gains value over time without you having to really be active involved in it, right? So if you buy a house, okay? If you buy a house, all right, outside of just paying for the taxes, the insurance, maintenance, and upkeep, it's a passive investment. It sits there unless you live in like Louisiana, then it might be flooded or moved to another state when the hurricane comes. But it's a passive investment, right? You buy it 30 years later, hopefully you sell it for a profit. Okay, because there's some poor son of a bitch out there who bought a dream house in 1970. Well, never mind. Okay, hopefully you sell it for a profit. That's a passive investment. Buying stocks, buying VU, okay, which is a Vanguard S&P ETF, and just forgetting about it and just adding to it is a passive investment. A 401k is a passive investment. It's just money put into something that gains value over time. You have to do a little bit, but that's it. An active investment is a hands-on investment, okay? If you are from a culture outside the United States, your kids are an active investment, okay? You birth this little shit, okay? And you work on it all day, for 18 years. Then they go off and do things. Then when you retire, okay, you move in and let them take care of you, okay? I'm half joking here, okay? That's not really what an active investment is, but that's an active, okay. But seriously, an active investment would be, let me buy a house or apartments to rent out, right? So now you buy this house and you rent it out to a bunch of college kids. Hopefully they're not drug addicts, right? And they're paying rent. So the rent is now paying for the mortgage. All right, you're literally doing that, but you have to be actively involved. You have to write contracts. You have to take care of the maintenance. You have to vet people. You have to do this. You have to keep up. You have to have a maintenance guy. You have to have a whatever. And apartments is the same thing. It's an active investment. Active investments have the chance of making you more money, but there's this thing called sweat equity. Okay, this is one of the things, like somebody like me. Okay, this is one of the biggest factors in me making an investment that's passive versus active. Okay, I have investments in another country. They are active investments, okay? They're very pain in the ass. Luckily, somebody else takes care of it. But there's this thing called sweat equity. Sweat equity means the amount of money you make or save based on the amount of work you have to put in, okay? So, for example, if you make an extra $100 per week, but you have to put in an extra 10 hours of work for that extra 100, that's $10 per hour. Is that worth it for you? And if that's not worth it for you, then you have no sweat equity, okay? It's too much, All right. If you give yourself a barrier and say, okay, if me putting 10 hours of work into this investment every week brings me an extra $1,000 per week, then it's worth the sweat equity. The amount of work you have to put in, the active amount of work you have to put in to see an ROI or return on investment. Okay. So that's when it comes to active investments. It's about the sweat equity. Is it worth the headache? Is it worth the time? Is it worth because you can't get your time back. Is it worth the stress? Is it worth all that? Do you have that involved? So if you want to buy up apartments and rent them out, okay, you're probably not going to break even for a while, and you've always got to worry a peace of mind about some asshole who burns cigarette butts into the walls, or mashes out the window, or breaks the pipes, or puts the turkey in the oven or something in the microwave with, you know what I'm saying? You've got to worry about that. And you're not going to always have really good tenants. Okay? So there's a lot that goes involved. So the difference between a passive versus an active investment. Now, if you're rich enough and you have enough apartments that you can hire a management company or a property manager to take care of it, yeah, okay, then it's different. Then you're getting rid of that sweat equity, okay? But that's where that important part is.